TED, Ideas Worth Spreading. We know the name, we know the mission. We know the model. Find an expert with an interesting idea. Train said expert to deliver an interesting and engaging 20-minute talk. Share interesting talk with the whole world. It's a model that has worked tremendously for over a decade. There is no other organization that has been so innovative in democratizing knowledge in an accessible and captivating format. However, what if the TED organization is actually not as innovative as it could be? To answer this question, let's first define innovation. Here is the ocean. Here is an island in the middle of the ocean. Here are two people that live on the island. Let's call them Ted the Performer and Ted the Learner. Ted the Performer is a landlubber. He makes the most of resources available on the island. He sets achievable goals, such as building a house, finding potable water, and finding a food source. He measures his success by checking off the achievement of these goals. Ted the Learner is more adventurous. She is curious about what's beyond the island and often takes her raft out to sea. She comes back to share with Ted the Performer what's possible beyond just shelter, food, and water. She shares ideas of amazing technology and complex systems on other islands. She also has goals, yet her goals are big and lofty, like building an underwater city or finding a way to thrive in the open ocean. Ted the Learner is the innovator. Ted the Performer is not. Ted the organization is most like Ted the Performer. Let's first look at how Ted the organization interacts with the ocean, the external world, the environment outside the confines of the company. TED the organization is reactive with its environment. For instance, the establishment of science standards was a direct reaction to the public criticism that TED Talks taught fake science. The organization reflected on external information, such as customer feedback, only when the brand was at risk. Furthermore, TED has the long-standing practice of reaching its goal to spread ideas by identifying knowledge experts to speak at conferences. Rather than venturing out into the ocean to determine if TED conferences are still relevant, the organization is more apt at bringing in resources to continue the established model, rather than discovering new information that might disrupt this model. While TED the organization most resembles Ted the Performer, there are elements of TED the organization that have learner characteristics, particularly when it comes to the goals of the organization. TED has the huge and admirable goal of spreading ideas to everyone in the world. It is difficult to measure this goal, so TED the organization has to reflect on its experiences and outcomes to decide if progress towards this goal is being made. This is very much what Ted the Learner does on a regular basis. In addition to the conferences and the TED Talks, programs like TED Translator, TED Ed, and TED Radio allow talks to be more accessible to the customer. Each program is a result of continual reflection and risk-taking, which makes learning more prominent. The greatest evidence, however, that TED the organization is most like Ted the Performer is its organizational structure. While the headquarters staff seem to work within a flat structure that facilitates knowledge sharing, the bottlenecks prominent in the decision-making process and the ultimate control of the CEO on final decisions make the learning aspect of the flat structure irrelevant. The organizational structure does little to provide professional development, career growth, and staff development for employees. employees are not armed with skills and knowledge to thrive beyond the organization. Furthermore, TED's business model is to create profits through conferences and corporate sponsorships. Funds are then used to support the website that makes content available for free. TED has a strong cultural brand of simple, authentic, impactful storytelling and builds a company culture around this brand. Not only does the company use this distinct communication style in its product, employees also use this style in its internal presentation. This bolsters shared values as the common link between the organization and customers. While this concept of shared values as a way to guide company culture is characteristic of a performance-oriented organization, there is, of course, hope that TED the organization can take steps towards becoming more like TED the learner. TED the organization has shown evidence that it can view mistakes as learning opportunities. When it learned that erroneous information was being disseminated through its TEDx channel, the organization made the decision to make the platform less open to ensure greater oversight on the relevance of the product. Furthermore, TED the organization was comfortable taking the risk to have volunteers rather than paid employees run TEDx events, which left open performance standards and diminished central control. This also allowed the organization to be exposed to ideas and processes different from its standard model. Why is it important that TED the organization be more like TED the learner? Why is it concerning that TED the organization looks more like TED the performer? Innovation is necessary for a company to navigate the turbulent forces of the unknown. While TED the organization has found its niche and stride, there will be a day when its relevance will wane. When that day comes, TED the learner will be able to leave the island and reinvent itself.
TED the performer will be stuck on the island and with very little options for survival. This again begs the question, how can TED the organization be more like TED the learner?
The first recommendation is to simply become more proactive. Be more exploratory. The TED Talk needs to evolve into different structures. This means that spreading ideas has to be more multifaceted. Right now, the organization relies heavily on the TED Talk. The use of other social media platforms beyond YouTube to democratize knowledge is necessary for the organization to ensure that it can keep up with the competition. The second recommendation is to invest in paid employees. While the model to use volunteers has been extraordinarily successful, it is the paid employees that will not only keep the organization afloat, they can bring the organization to a new frontier. Without investment in growing their skills and knowledge and ensuring their job satisfaction, TED the organization is destined to remain stagnant or lose their human capital. Lastly, the decision-making processes must support the flat organizational structure that TED the organization says it promotes. A flat organizational structure allows greater sharing of ideas and a flexibility that gets employees to think beyond what they know. If decisions aren't able to be made quickly and efficiently, employees will not see their ideas come to fruition, and the organization again risks stagnation. TED the organization is innovative in the sense that it promotes innovative ideas through interesting and big-thinking experts. However, the organization's way of interacting with its environment, supporting employees in slow movement to change its model, prevents it from being a truly innovative company. TED the organization is a phenomenal performer. It is time now to step off the island, learn to navigate the world beyond, and continue to spread worthy ideas for many, many years to come.